The text message came at the worst possible moment. James Mitchell's phone buzzed as 7-year-old Sophie built her sandcastle at Venice Beach, the California sun beating down mercilessly. The words on the screen made his blood run cold. Custody hearing scheduled, Portland family court. Sophie deserves stability with a real family. Rachel, his ex-wife's lawyer, had made good on her threat. 3 years of peace, shattered by one vindictive message. James's hands trembled as he deleted the text, hoping Sophie wouldn't notice the panic creeping across his face. That's when he saw him. Ryan Hayes stood near the volleyball courts, arguing quietly into his phone. Designer sunglasses perched on sun-bleached hair. For 3 years, Ryan had been the intimidating CEO of Pacific Creative Agency, the marketing powerhouse that employed half of Los Angeles' creative talent. James had worked countless late nights perfecting campaigns for Ryan's impossible standards, never imagining his boss as anything other than a perfectly polished corporate machine. But here, stripped of his tailored suits and commanding boardroom presence, Ryan looked almost human. James quickly looked away, focusing on Sophie's enthusiastic sand architecture. The last thing he needed was workplace awkwardness on top of his custody nightmare. But curiosity got the better of him. Ryan had stepped behind a beach shelter, still on his phone, his voice carrying an edge James had never heard before. "Dad, I don't care what the board thinks about my personal life. The company's doing fine." A pause. "No, I won't be bringing anyone to your fundraiser. We've had this conversation." The wind chose that moment to be cruel. A sudden gust caught Ryan's beach towel, whipping it away from where he'd been changing after his swim. For one mortifying second, James found himself staring directly at his boss's bare torso as Ryan fumbled to wrap the towel around his waist. Their eyes met across the sand. Horror, recognition, and something else James couldn't identify flashed between them. "Daddy, who's that man?" Sophie asked, following James's gaze with the brutal honesty of a 7-year-old. Ryan was walking toward them now, his expression unreadable behind those expensive sunglasses. James's mind raced. He could pretend not to recognize him, grab Sophie, and flee. He could die of embarrassment right here in the sand, or he could face this like the former Navy officer he had once been, before "don't ask, don't tell" had cost him everything. "That's my boss from work," James managed, standing up as Ryan approached. "Mr. Hayes, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to." But Ryan held up a hand, stopping the apology. Up close, without the armor of his 3-piece suits, he looked younger, more vulnerable. There were worry lines around his eyes that expensive concealer usually hid. "It's Ryan when we're not at the office," he said quietly. "And you're James Mitchell." Wright Sr. designed him on the Volvo campaign. Sophie, bless her fearless heart, extended a sandy hand toward Ryan. "I'm Sophie. That's my daddy. He makes pictures on computers." Ryan's stern expression cracked into something approaching a smile. "That's an excellent job description. Those pictures your daddy makes are pretty important." He glanced at James, something shifting in his demeanor. "I didn't know you had a daughter. She's beautiful." "Thank you," James replied, unsure how to navigate this surreal moment. His phone buzzed again. Another message from Rachel's lawyer. This one with an attachment, legal documents that would destroy everything he'd built. Sophie tugged on his beach shorts. "Daddy, your face looks scared again, like when the mean lady calls." Ryan's sharp eyes caught the interaction, the way James's jaw tightened, how his phone seemed to burn in his grip. "Everything all right?" Ryan asked, his CEO instincts kicking in despite the beach setting. James wanted to lie, to keep his personal catastrophe separate from his professional life. But something in Ryan's voice, maybe the gentleness he'd just shown Sophie, made him crack. "Just family complications. Nothing that affects my work." Ryan studied him for a moment, then surprised them both by settling onto the sand beside Sophie's castle. "Mind if I help? I was pretty good at this when I was your age." As Ryan began carefully shaping turrets alongside Sophie's enthusiastic direction, James felt his world tilting off its axis. This morning, Ryan Hayes had been the untouchable CEO who fired people for missing deadlines. Now he was kneeling in the sand, patiently explaining architectural principles to a 7-year-old, his expensive watch glinting as he worked. The custody threat still loomed. Rachel's demands still echoed in his head. But for this moment, James felt less alone than he had in months. When life forces you to confront your deepest fears, sometimes the most unexpected allies emerge from the most ordinary moments. The question is whether you're brave enough to let them stay. If this story resonates with you, don't forget to like and subscribe to Harriet Stories for more tales about courage, family, and the connections that change everything. Monday morning brought chaos to Pacific Creative Agency. James arrived to find the bullpen buzzing with nervous energy, whispers dying abruptly when senior staff walked by. Ryan's corner office blinds were drawn tight, which never happened unless something catastrophic was unfolding. The mystery solved itself when Marcus Thompson, the company's biggest client, stormed through the lobby with his entourage of conservative board members, their voices carrying despite the closed conference room doors. "We cannot associate our family values brand with this kind of controversy," Thompson's voice boomed. "The photos are already circulating on social media. Your CEO was photographed with a man and child at Venice Beach. The implications are damaging enough without adding fuel to the fire." James felt his stomach drop. Someone had photographed their innocent beach encounter and twisted it into something sinister. Through the glass partition, he watched Ryan's shoulders tense as Thompson continued his tirade. Sarah Chen, the senior account manager, appeared beside James's desk with barely contained panic. "Mitchell, we need damage control. Thompson Industries is threatening to pull their entire account unless Ryan provides a satisfactory explanation for his weekend activities. They're demanding assurance that he represents their traditional family values." The irony wasn't lost on James. Thompson Industries, whose anti-LGBTQ stance was an open secret in the industry, now held their company's financial future hostage. The conference room door opened, and Thompson's delegation filed out with grim satisfaction. Ryan emerged moments later, his usually immaculate appearance slightly disheveled, his tie loosened in a rare display of vulnerability. Their eyes met briefly across the office space, a flash of shared understanding passing between them before Ryan retreated to his sanctuary. James tried to focus on his design work, but concentration proved impossible as rumors swirled around him like toxic smoke. "I heard Ryan's been secretly gay this whole time," whispered Kelly from accounting, her voice carrying farther than intended. "My cousin works at that firm downtown. Said everyone in the industry knows, but nobody talks about it. Makes you wonder how he's been making client decisions." You know, James's hands clenched into fists, but he forced himself to remain silent. Defending Ryan would only invite more scrutiny, and he couldn't afford any additional attention with his custody battle looming. The afternoon brought more devastating news. 3 major clients had requested emergency meetings to reassess their partnerships, corporate speak for preparing to flee. James watched through his computer screen as Pacific Creative's stock price began to slide. Each percentage point representing jobs, livelihoods, dreams. The company Ryan had built from nothing was bleeding out in real time. All because someone had photographed a moment of simple human connection at a beach. Around 4 o'clock, Ryan finally emerged from his office, his face a mask of professional composure that didn't quite hide the exhaustion underneath. "All hands meeting in conference room A. Now this," he announced, his voice carrying its usual authority, but lacking its typical warmth. The team gathered reluctantly, the atmosphere thick with tension and unspoken fears about job security and company survival. Ryan stood at the head of the table, his hands clasped behind his back in a posture James recognized from their military days. Preparation for battle. "I'm sure you've all heard the rumors by now. Thompson Industries and several other clients have expressed concerns about my personal life and how it reflects on this company. I want to address this directly." The room held its collective breath, everyone understanding that careers hung in the balance of whatever came next. Pacific Creative Agency has always been built on the principle of authentic storytelling. Ryan continued, his voice steady despite the storm raging around them. We've helped brands connect with consumers by encouraging them to be genuine, to stand behind their values even when it's difficult. Today, I'm asking this company to live those same principles. James felt his chest tighten as he realized where this was heading. The man and child in those photographs are James Mitchell, one of our most talented designers, and his daughter Sophie. We spent Sunday afternoon building sandcastles and discovering that sometimes the most important connections happen when you least expect them. The room erupted in subtle movements, shifted glances, cleared throats, the quiet reshuffling of people choosing sides. James felt exposed, vulnerable, terrified that his personal life was now part of a corporate chess game. Ryan's next words cut through the tension like a blade. If Thompson Industries cannot accept that their marketing partner is a human being who forms connections with good people regardless of gender, then perhaps we're not the right agency for their brand. The boldness of the statement sent shockwaves through the room. CEOs didn't sacrifice major accounts for principle, especially not in an industry built on compromise and careful image management. The meeting ended with uncomfortable silence and scattered exits. James lingered, watching his colleagues' faces as they processed what they'd witnessed. Some showed respect for Ryan's courage. Others displayed poorly concealed panic about their job security. The divide was forming, and James realized that their innocent beach encounter had become ground zero for a battle much larger than either of them had anticipated. As the room emptied, Ryan caught James's attention with a subtle nod toward his office. They walked in heavy silence, both understanding that their professional relationship had just been forever altered. The foundation of their carefully maintained CEO-employee dynamic had cracked wide open, revealing something raw and honest and utterly dangerous. When workplace authenticity collides with societal prejudice, the cost is often measured not just in lost revenue, but in the courage required to choose truth over comfort. The emergency board meeting was scheduled for Tuesday morning, but the damage was already cascading beyond control. James arrived early to find Ryan's office light still on from the night before. Empty coffee cups and crumpled papers scattered across his desk like the debris of a losing battle. Through the glass partition, he could see his boss hunched over financial reports, calculator in hand, calculating the cost of integrity in real time. By noon, 6 clients had formally terminated their contracts. The company's revenue projections showed a 38% drop, enough to force layoffs by month's end. James watched his colleagues' faces grow increasingly strained as news spread through informal channels. Whispered conversations in hallways, tense phone calls behind closed doors, the gradual realization that their workplace sanctuary was crumbling around them. The board arrived at 2 o'clock sharp, led by Margaret Steinberg, the silver-haired venture capitalist who'd helped Ryan secure initial funding 5 years earlier. Their expressions conveyed cold business calculation rather than personal animosity, which somehow made their presence more terrifying. They filed into the conference room like undertakers, carrying briefcases full of contingency plans and exit strategies. James couldn't hear the specific words, but body language told the story clearly enough. Margaret's gesticulations grew increasingly sharp as she presented what appeared to be ultimatums. Board member David Walsh pointed repeatedly at financial projections displayed on the room's monitor, his face grave with concern about fiduciary responsibility. Through it all, Ryan sat perfectly still, his hands folded on the table, absorbing their demands with the stoic acceptance of a man facing execution. The meeting lasted 3 hours. When the board finally departed, their expressions suggested grim satisfaction rather than resolution. Ryan remained in the conference room alone, staring at documents they'd left behind, papers that likely outlined his choice between personal authenticity and professional survival. James watched from his desk as his boss's shoulders gradually slumped, the weight of impossible decisions finally overwhelming his legendary composure. Around 6 o'clock, when most of the staff had departed, James noticed Ryan emerge from the conference room with unsteady steps. The usually impeccable CEO looked disheveled, his tie askew, His normally perfect hair mussed from running anxious fingers through it repeatedly. Instead of heading to his office, Ryan walked directly to the building's rooftop access, moving with the mechanical precision of someone operating on autopilot. James followed his instincts, taking the stairs two at a time to reach the rooftop garden Pacific Creative had installed as an employee wellness initiative. He found Ryan standing at the edge of the building's safety barrier, not dangerously close, but isolated in a way that set off every protective alarm James possessed. The evening Los Angeles skyline stretched endlessly before them, beautiful and indifferent to the human drama unfolding 30 stories above the street. The board gave me 72 hours to provide them with a satisfactory resolution, Ryan said without turning around, his voice hollow with exhaustion. Satisfactory meaning I publicly distance myself from any behavior they consider inconsistent with corporate leadership standards. They've prepared a statement apologizing for my poor judgment and assuring clients of my commitment to traditional business partnerships. James moved closer, close enough to notice Ryan's hands trembling slightly as he gripped the railing. And if you don't sign it, the question hung in the air between them like a challenge. Ryan's laugh carried no humor, only bitter recognition of impossible choices. Then they invoked the morality clause in my contract. I'm removed as CEO, forfeit my equity stake, and they install interim leadership while seeking a replacement who better represents their vision of corporate stability. The magnitude of the destruction was staggering. Ryan had built Pacific Creative from nothing, pouring his creativity, intelligence, and relentless work ethic into creating something meaningful in an industry notorious for superficiality. Now that life's work balanced precariously on his willingness to deny fundamental aspects of his identity, to apologize for moments of human connection that threaten no one except those invested in maintaining artificial barriers. There's something else, Ryan continued, his voice dropping to barely above a whisper. They've hired a private investigator to document my personal life, ensure I'm maintaining appropriate relationships. Any future associations deemed problematic will result in immediate contract termination. They want to own not just my professional decisions, but my private moments, my friendships, my capacity for authentic human connection. James felt fury rising in his chest, anger not just at the board's cruelty, but at a system that forced good people to choose between love and survival. What about the discrimination laws? Surely they can't legally... But Ryan shook his head, cutting off the naive hope before it could fully form. The morality clause is carefully worded. They're not discriminating against my sexuality directly, just ensuring my behavior aligns with shareholder expectations and client comfort levels. Perfectly legal corporate maneuvering. The silence stretched between them, filled with the distant hum of traffic and the weight of decisions that would reshape lives. James studied Ryan's profile, noting the exhaustion etched around his eyes, the defensive tension in his shoulders, the careful distance he maintained even now when they were alone together. This was what institutional homophobia looked like. Not violent hatred, but systemic pressure designed to force people back into carefully constructed closets. I have a custody hearing on Friday, James said quietly, surprising himself with his honesty. My ex-wife is claiming I'm an unfit father because I'm gay. She's arguing that Sophie deserves a stable home with traditional role models. The parallel hung unspoken between them. Two men facing the same fundamental choice between authenticity and security, between truth and survival. Ryan finally turned to face him, his expression shifting from isolated despair to genuine concern. James, I'm so sorry. I had no idea you were dealing with that. Is there anything the company can do to help? Legal resources? Character references? The offer was generous considering Ryan's own precarious position, evidence of the leadership qualities that had built Pacific Creative's reputation in the first place. Just knowing I'm not alone in this makes a difference, James replied honestly. But Ryan, whatever you decide about the board's ultimatum, don't let them take away who you are. The world needs leaders willing to stand up for authenticity, even when the cost is enormous, especially then. They stood together in comfortable silence, two men facing impossible odds but no longer facing them alone. Sometimes courage isn't about winning against overwhelming forces, but about refusing to surrender your fundamental humanity, even when the price of integrity threatens to destroy everything you've built. Wednesday morning brought unexpected chaos. Someone had leaked Ryan's board ultimatum to the Los Angeles Business Journal, and by 10 a.m., Pacific Creative's lobby was swarming with reporters demanding statements about corporate discrimination and CEO accountability. James watched from his desk as security guards struggled to maintain order, while news vans gathered outside like circling vultures. Ryan emerged from his office with surprising calm, straightening his tie as he approached the impromptu press conference that had invaded his workspace. Instead of fleeing or issuing corporate non-statements, he stepped directly into the media storm with the courage of someone who'd finally decided that dignity mattered more than damage control. "My name is Ryan Hayes, and I'm the founder and CEO of Pacific Creative Agency," he began, his voice carrying clearly across the crowded lobby. "For 5 years, this company has helped brands tell authentic stories that connect with consumers. Today, I'm going to tell you an authentic story about what happens when corporate leadership is forced to choose between personal integrity and financial survival." James held his breath as Ryan continued, his words deliberate and unstoppable. "I am a gay man who has spent the better part of my career hiding that fact because I believed my sexual orientation was incompatible with business success. Last weekend, I spent an afternoon at Venice Beach with James Mitchell, a valued employee, and his daughter Sophie. We built sandcastles and shared honest conversation. Someone photographed this moment and used it to threaten my company's financial stability." The reporters pressed closer, sensing the magnitude of what they were witnessing. CEOs didn't typically sacrifice their careers for principle, especially not in real time during unscheduled press conferences. Ryan's next words cut through the media frenzy like a declaration of war against institutional cowardice. "My board of directors has given me 72 hours to publicly apologize for my poor judgment and assure our clients that I will maintain appropriate relationships going forward. They want me to sign a statement promising to hide who I am to protect their comfort levels. I'm here to tell you that I refuse." The collective gasp from assembled reporters created a sound like breaking glass. James felt his heart racing as he realized the implications. Ryan was choosing truth over everything. His company, his financial security, his carefully constructed professional identity. The courage was breathtaking and terrifying in equal measure. But the story wasn't finished yet. "Furthermore," Ryan continued, his voice growing stronger with each word, "I'm announcing the establishment of the Pacific Creative Authenticity Initiative, a fund dedicated to supporting LGBTQ+ professionals facing discrimination in corporate environments. We will provide legal resources, career transition assistance, and mentorship programs for anyone forced to choose between their identity and their livelihood." The questions erupted immediately. Reporters demanding details about the board's response, the company's financial future, Ryan's personal plans. But James wasn't listening anymore. His phone was buzzing with an incoming call from his lawyer, and the caller ID made his stomach clench with dread. The custody hearing had been moved up to this afternoon. Rachel's legal team was striking while the media attention was at its peak, hoping to use Ryan's public outing to strengthen their case against James's fitness as a parent. By 3 o'clock, James found himself in a Portland courthouse, watching Rachel's lawyer paint a picture of his home life that bore no resemblance to reality. "Your Honor, Mr. Mitchell has been photographed associating with the individuals whose lifestyle choices reflect poor judgment regarding child welfare. His employer's recent scandal demonstrates the unstable environment surrounding my client's daughter." The lawyer presented enlarged photographs of the beach encounter, somehow making innocent sandcastle construction appear sinister through careful cropping and inflammatory context. James's own attorney fought back, but the tide of public opinion felt overwhelming. Then something extraordinary happened. Ryan Hayes walked into the courtroom, still wearing his television makeup from the morning's press conference, flanked by Pacific Creative's legal team. He'd driven 5 hours from Los Angeles to Portland to testify on James's behalf, risking further professional damage to support someone who'd shown him basic human kindness. "Your Honor, I'm Ryan Hayes, CEO of Pacific Creative Agency. James Mitchell is one of the most dedicated, principled, and competent professionals I've ever had the privilege of employing. His devotion to his daughter is evident in every interaction I've witnessed. The suggestion that his personal relationships affect his parenting ability is not only unfounded but represents exactly the kind of prejudice that has no place in custody determinations. Rachel's lawyer objected vigorously, but Ryan's presence had shifted the courtroom dynamics. Here was a successful business leader willing to stake his reputation on James's character, offering testimony that transformed media speculation into personal advocacy. The judge listened carefully as Ryan detailed James's work ethic, his reliability, his obvious love for Sophie. Outside the courthouse, they discovered another surprise. Word had spread through social media about both men's situations, and a crowd of supporters had gathered, LGBTQ+ advocates, Pacific Creative employees who'd driven north after work, parents who understood the fundamental injustice of using someone's identity against them in custody proceedings. Sophie herself provided the most powerful testimony, speaking to the judge with 7-year-old honesty about feeling safe and loved with her father, about Ryan being kind to her at the beach, about not understanding why adults were making such a fuss about people being nice to each other. Her innocence cut through legal complexities with devastating effectiveness. The judge's decision came swiftly. This court finds no evidence that Mr. Mitchell's personal relationships or professional associations pose any risk to his daughter's welfare. Joint custody will continue as previously established. Furthermore, this court reminds all parties that personal prejudice has no place in determinations of parental fitness. As they walked out of the courthouse together, James felt the weight of months of fear finally lifting from his shoulders. Ryan had risked everything to support him, transforming a corporate crisis into an act of profound personal loyalty. The crowd of supporters cheered, cameras flashed, and James realized that sometimes the most important victories happen not when you're strong enough to fight alone, but when you're brave enough to let others fight beside you. That evening, back in Los Angeles, Pacific Creative's employees gathered in the office lobby to watch news coverage of the day's events. Ryan's stock price had plummeted. Several board members had resigned in protest, but something else was happening. New clients were calling, progressive brands eager to work with a company willing to take authentic stands on social issues. The corporate world was changing, slowly but inexorably, and Pacific Creative had positioned itself on the right side of history. When facing impossible choices between integrity and security, the bravest decision is often the one that refuses to accept that such choices should exist at all. Six months later, James stood in the same Venice Beach spot where everything had changed, watching Sophie chase seagulls while Ryan set up their picnic blanket with the methodical precision he brought to everything. The late afternoon sun painted the Pacific Ocean in shades of gold and amber, and for the first time in longer than he could remember, James felt completely at peace. Pacific Creative had not only survived Ryan's moment of radical honesty, but had thrived beyond anyone's expectations. The company's commitment to authentic values had attracted a new generation of clients, progressive brands eager to work with an agency that practiced what it preached about corporate responsibility. The Authenticity Initiative had provided legal support to over 200 LGBTQ+ professionals facing workplace discrimination, turning Ryan's personal crisis into systemic change. "Daddy, Ryan, look what I found." Sophie's voice carried across the sand as she ran toward them, clutching a perfect seashell, her face glowing with the simple joy that had become the soundtrack to their unconventional family life. Over the months, she'd seamlessly accepted Ryan as a permanent fixture, never questioning the transition from boss to family friend to something deeper and more meaningful. The custody battle had ended with complete vindication, but more importantly, it had connected them with a community of chosen family that extended far beyond blood or relations. Other single parents, LGBTQ+ couples with children, friends who understood that love creates bonds stronger than legal documents or societal expectations. Their Sunday gatherings had become legendary among their circle. Potluck dinners where Sophie was surrounded by adults who celebrated her exactly as she was. Ryan's transformation had been equally remarkable. The carefully controlled CEO persona had given way to someone more relaxed, more genuinely himself. He'd started coaching Sophie's soccer team, learned to braid hair through YouTube tutorials, and discovered that his analytical mind applied surprisingly well to 7-year-old logic puzzles. James watched him now, completely absorbed in Sophie's seashell discovery, and marveled at how naturally he'd adapted to parenthood. "The adoption papers are finalized," Ryan said quietly, settling beside James on the blanket while Sophie continued her beach exploration. "The judge signed everything this morning. It's official. I'm legally Sophie's second parent." The words carried weight beyond their legal significance. After months of background checks, home studies, and bureaucratic navigation, their unconventional family had official recognition from the state of California. James felt tears prick his eyes, overwhelmed by gratitude for the journey that had brought them to this moment. "She's lucky to have you," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "We both are." Ryan's hand found his, their fingers interlacing with practiced ease, a gesture that had become as natural as breathing, despite its revolutionary implications for two men who'd once hidden their authentic selves behind corporate facades. The business transformation had created ripple effects throughout the industry. Pacific Creative's success had inspired other agencies to examine their own diversity practices, leading to measurable changes in hiring patterns and corporate policies across Los Angeles' creative sector. Ryan had been invited to speak at business schools about authentic leadership, sharing the story of how personal courage had generated unexpected professional rewards. "Look, there's the spot where you first saw each other," Sophie announced, pointing toward the volleyball courts with the unwavering memory children possess for important family mythology. She'd insisted on hearing the story of their meeting dozens of times, each telling cementing it deeper into their family lore. In her version, they were heroes who'd found each other through magic and sandcastles. As evening approached, other families began departing the beach, but they remained, reluctant to end this perfect day. Sophie had fallen asleep between them, exhausted from hours of sand construction and wave chasing, her small body radiating trust and contentment. James and Ryan sat in comfortable silence, watching the sunset paint impossible colors across the sky. "Remember when you thought this would destroy everything?" Ryan asked softly, gesturing toward the space where their story had begun. "That moment when we looked at each other and you were terrified I'd fire you for seeing me vulnerable." James laughed quietly, careful not to wake Sophie. The fear seemed almost ridiculous now, though he remembered how real it had felt in that instant. "Now I can't imagine any other outcome," James replied honestly. "Sometimes I think we needed that crisis to break us open enough to let each other in." It was true, without the external pressure, they might have maintained their careful professional distance indefinitely, both too afraid to risk the stability they'd built through careful concealment. As they packed up their beach supplies, Sophie stirring sleepily in Ryan's arms, James reflected on the unexpected education their journey had provided. They'd learned that courage wasn't the absence of fear, but the decision to act despite it. That authenticity required not just personal honesty, but willingness to create space for others to be equally genuine. That families could be built through intention and commitment rather than accident and obligation. Pacific Creative's lobby now displayed a rainbow flag alongside the American flag, a small symbol of massive internal transformation. The company had achieved B Corporation certification, formally acknowledging its commitment to social responsibility alongside profit generation. New employees consistently cited the inclusive culture as their primary reason for joining, creating a talent pipeline that strengthened rather than threatened business success. Walking back to their car with Sophie dozed against Ryan's shoulder, James felt overwhelmed by the completeness of their unlikely victory. A beach encounter that had threatened to destroy everything had instead revealed the possibility of building something more authentic and sustainable than either man had dared imagine alone. Their love story had become a catalyst for broader social change, proof that personal courage could create professional opportunities rather than limiting them. That night, as they tucked Sophie into bed in the home they now officially shared, she asked her traditional bedtime question, Tell me again how you and Daddy Ryan became a family. And James told her the story one more time about courage and kindness and sand castles that became foundations for something beautiful and permanent. Have you ever faced a moment where choosing authenticity felt impossibly risky, only to discover it led to something better than you'd ever imagined? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe to Heart Stories for more tales about love, courage, and the families we choose to build together.